You didn't think I was done with movie tie-in games, did you? We all know that there were movie tie-in games out there back in the day that they were just rushed out even before a movie was even released in theaters. And don't mind the dog in the background. Look at him. He's a cutie. And these games, all the time, except for a few instances, were just to hunt on little children out there looking to play anything. And most of the time, these movies were just the most bottom of the crusty barrel that you could ever find. And these games, they're just on a whole other level of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious shit. But like last time, I did also find some hidden gems, so maybe we might find some here. Who knows? All these games might suck complete ass. And some of these are hidden gems, and some of these you should avoid entirely. Just like that white van that says free candy on the side of it.
But before we get into the video, I want to quickly look at a free-to-play game on Steam based on a horror film that's very close to a song by Metallica. In this game, you play as the puppets or as humans. In a multiplayer game, you can also play online or with friends. And if you don't have friends to play with, then go outside and touch grass. And no, I don't mean the devil's lettuce. However, if you try to play the multiplayer, yeah, this game doesn't seem to have many players online anymore, so it's hard to play multiplayer. But if you have friends to play with, this game can be fun as hell. Because hell is fun, apparently.
And as I said, it's free to play, so that just makes it so much better. But this is not the only horror movie that got turned into a game. There's actually a bunch, but I want to save them for a Halloween episode. For right now, though, let's move on to a gothic horror story that was made for children. Coraline.
Not going to spoil the movie too much, but basically, it's a retelling of the Alice in Wonderland story, but instead it focuses on Coraline having neglectful parents. Other than that, go watch the movie for yourself. However, I do remember seeing this game on store shelves back in the day, but I never bothered picking it up. And now this game goes for hundreds, if not over $100 on eBay. And my refusal only contributed to that high price. But is the price worth it? Well, let's find out. My name is Buttery. What? I can't put in buttery because it's centering out the word butt?
No more saying cuss words, guys!
Well, game, you're giving me no choice but to come up with the most ridiculous name that I could come up with. So you know what that means? Fish!
So we start the game with an FMV scene telling us about the beginning of the story, where we just moved into this dump of a house, and Coraline's parents are too busy to give their child attention. But honestly, how busy can they be when the mom is just sipping her coffee and not even touching her cookies, and dad is on the hub in the other room? We tell dad we're bored, so he tells us to find 7 blue objects. Okay, easy enough. Then he tells us to move these papers around. Are you really that busy with a child trafficking scheme that you can't get off your ass and pick up these damn papers? Then he tells us to find the water heater. And finally, he lets us go outside after the rain finally stops, but he tells us to water the plants before we leave. We get the watering can, put water into it, bring it to this plant, and it grows instantly.
If only that worked in real life, if you know what I mean.
Before I ramble on for too much longer, this game is basically just a set of minigames. It's so boring. Even more boring than the house itself that Coraline lives in. How do you even accomplish that? Also, these optional minigames give you buttons which you can use to buy stuff from the in-game shop. But these minigames, you can play repeatedly over and over again to farm buttons off of them. The painting minigame, you just spam one button and get lucky with it, and then you get 30 buttons off of it. Once you collect enough, you can basically buy everything, including infinite level skips, to bypass every level onwards. Why is this game worth that much on eBay, yet open season is the same exact thing, yet only worth a tenth of that price? I'd have better use of $100 buying a hooker than playing this game.
But hey, we at least found some hidden gems in the last video, so we can at least find one here, right? So why don't we try another Grimm's Children's Show? Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events.
Unlike Coraline, I did play this game as a kid, and I remember liking it as well. But as before, I liked open season as a kid too, and we all know how I felt about it now. But let's keep an open mind. Also, fun fact, this film was made by DreamWorks. Yes, DreamWorks made live-action movies before, not just animated stuff. And this was also a Nickelodeon property. But what's the actual game like? For starters, this game has narration with these illustration bits, and if you recognize this voice,
The video game you are about to play is extremely unpleasant.
that is the voice of Tim Curry, which you may also know from other movies such as Beauty and the Beast, Wild Thornberrys, Home Alone 1 and 2, Scary Movie 1 and 2, Annie, and Stephen King's It, and not the remake, the original 1990s short series. Also in the film, Sonny is racist.
You should have been in that fire with your parents.
After a quick summary of the story from the film, we get to play the game, switching between the three Baudelaire children, Klaus, Violet, and Sonny, finding objects and putting them together to make inventions. Some can be used by Klaus, while others can be used by Violet, and Sonny can use one later levels so that way she can jump from a standstill as well as do a body slam. Also, if you collect these puzzle pieces and go to the menu, it will show you a picture of where you can go to find hidden secrets, which will give you clues on how your parents died and give you an alternate ending as well as some extras for collecting them all.
We are collecting evidence of wrongdoings. Help us find more. Stop. When assembled, all will be revealed. Stop. P.S. The world is quiet here.
Where did it come from?
It says that it was delivered by the very fast delivery service.
If it were that fast, I would have had my Switch delivered to me by Temu by now. I have to say, I prefer this game over Coraline, because it isn't just a bunch of pointless mini-games that make up the game. It's linear, sure, but each of the levels feel like they belong. Although the game is pretty easy, but easy does not always mean bad. Coraline is dumb easy without any challenge involved. With this game, you have to have patience. That's all you really need. If you have that, you should be good to go. And also a bit of platforming. The inventions you make are not useless. They are weapons to use to defeat enemies, but also used for a variety in the platforming. Like the steady stilts to get across toxic waste, levitating loafers to reach longer distances, and the previously mentioned baby booster that Sonny uses.
Or phenyl sodium hydroxide.
What does that mean?
It means you don't want to touch it.
Aw man, I thought it was Mountain Dew! Sure, it's not the best game in the world, far from it, but it's an alright game.
But now, we're going to get into the weird side of the video game tie-in iceberg. Some of these games doesn't even make sense to make a video game out of. Like before we looked at Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, right? Well, what if I told you they made a game on Charlotte's Web?
Yep. If you thought Charlie in the Diarrhea Hole was the only out-of-place game, you'd be wrong. But the weirdest part about this game is it only came out in Europe, just like Men in Black for the PS1. So that only tells me this game is going to suck ass water with a vacuum cleaner. Yet again, it's another Nickelodeon movie. But the last game was not bad at all, so how could this be bad? Maybe it's because the people behind this game were 2 layers away from being called KKK Entertainment. So we start the game and the first level is balancing the stroller, and then ends after 90 seconds. After that, we walk around to find the next minigame, collect yellow apples, walk to the next minigame. Yep, this suffers the same fate as Coraline. Just a bunch of minigames with no rhyme or reason, but also, how you move this squealing bratwurst is so unresponsive and downright unplayable. It feels like you are driving him rather than moving him. This game so far is the worst movie-based game I have ever played. Not even autistic people would find this fun.
But do you know what autistic people do like? Trains. And they made a game on the Polar Express.
Now, before you cancel me for making fun of autistic people, I just want y'all to know that I have autism, and I have a boyfriend that is autistic, and he likes trains, so shut up. But Polar Express the game? How do you make a Christmas movie with Tom Hanks into a game? Well, first level, you have to chase the golden ticket that flies away. Then we run into a Jack-in-the-Box that's gone haywire, so it's more like Crack-in-the-Box. We defeat it, go to the ticket, kick soccer balls at puppets, throw the beer, we grab the ticket, return to the car, and then we need to realize, oh, we need to collect more tickets, so we go back through the same train. Yeah, this game is very good. Just another minigame set, man. Shouldn't have been made in the first place.
But this is not the only Christmas movie that got turned into a game. This game is based on Elf.
Nope, I'm not making this up. A movie about an elf starring William Farewell has a game exclusively for the Game Boy Advance. So right off the bat, this game has no save feature. For 2004, that's inexcusable. Instead, it uses passwords. So like a lot of GBA games, it's a side-scroller with minor platforming. However, a few levels in, it goes in a top-down perspective. And let me tell you, the hitbox of falling in the water is so horrendous, I wonder if it's a glitch. The slightest pixel and you are set back. Also, this health meter doesn't do anything. When you take damage, you're sent back to the last checkpoint. But this health meter goes down by 1 tick. So it's not a health meter, but more or less a life counter. It would have been easier just to have a number there instead of this bar. It's misleading as hell, and why show just still images from the film only to show a text box on the next screen? Yeah, this game is terrible.
How about we try to look at a game that actually makes a little bit of sense to make a game out of? Like Chronicles of Narnia.
Some of y'all might be asking, how does this movie make sense to make a game out of? Well, think about it. The movie was essentially a Lord of the Rings-esque adventure movie. However, the game was made by the same devs that made the LEGO games, who also made the Lord of the Rings games, which people remember being good. So maybe this game might be decent. When we boot up the game, it shows a scene from the movie where the city is being bombed by Nazis. Honestly, I completely forgot that happened in the movie. Damn, is that dark. And then it transitions from FMV to in-game graphics seamlessly, and we get to the first level. All we have to do is find the other children and hide before the time runs out. You can switch between the 4 children on the fly, who all have different tasks. You can also collect coins, as well as other pickups to unlock special abilities for these children. After that, we get to our new home. Once we are in the new home, this is when we step into the world of Narnia and get to our level select screen. Which, I'll be honest, this is one of the most clever level select screens I've ever seen. We get to the next level, this is where we get introduced to teaming 2 characters together to perform a special move. Like throwing your little sister into thick blocks of ice like the little brat deserves. And with unlocking abilities, this can turn into very fun fights later in the game. Honestly, I kind of enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of having to hide from Jadis while having to break boxes in the way of my path, but other than that, it's a good time. So I have to say, this is a hidden gem of the PS2 library.
See, I told you this would be a good game to make sense. However, this is probably the high point of this episode. And like anything in this video, these games, you shouldn't talk about them in any conversation unless you're trying to talk specifically about bad games. And do you know what else you shouldn't be talking about? Fight Club.
I'm breaking rule number 1. Don't talk about Fight Club. And here I am talking about it. You have your usual button inputs for fighters, more or less playing like Tekken or Soul Calibur with 4 face buttons, and different moves depending on the D-pad you press. My biggest complaint would be the game doesn't render properly. It's not even an emulation problem, but it has pop-up in and out for no reason. Even the character select screen has to load in the pics, but these characters don't amount to anything, because all of them feel identical to each other. All having the same movesets, and that's what gives fighters their edge. Makes their characters feel unique, but this game is super bare bones, and the visuals past the glitchy pop-up from the rendering, it just doesn't even look good even if it wasn't an issue. It's so grey.
It's grey and full of water! No!
I think we need to go back to kids' games because a lot of those were pretty decent. So, let's try Astro Boy.
Wait, something seems off here. This doesn't look like the movie at all.
Okay, well, there's actually a reason for this. This version was released by Sega back in the day and has nothing to do with the film whatsoever. This game is based on a Japanese manga of the same name from 1952 that then got turned into an anime in 1962, which ended in 1968. And then a TV series came out in 2003. But the film came out in 2009, which was the first time everyone got a big taste of this IP. But since both games are the same name besides one being called the video game, it's very easy to not be able to distinguish these two. But back to Astro Boy.
So the game starts with an FMV of a recap of the first quarter of the film, and then immediately after a few minutes I take a look at the gameplay and I think to myself, what the hell is this? A side scroll on the PS2? I mean, newer games have those too, but those are indie devs. This just goes left to right. And then after a few minutes, discover we can fly, and this turns into quite literally the worst shoot 'em up I have ever seen. And these cutscenes, oh my god, are they rough. They are so pixelated, I wonder if this game was even supposed to be a PS2 game. This looks like something I'd see on the fucking DS. How can it be this bad?
These next games are probably the lowest point in this video. I have two NES games I want to look at. One of these games, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yep, we have an LJN title. Who would have guessed? Also, fun fact, this movie is actually one of Keanu Reeves' first films, who you may also know as John Wick or from Cyberpunk or Leo from The Matrix. So how would this be turned into a game? Well, instead of following the movie, instead gives us an original idea. This time, Bill and Ted have to take these figures and return them to their original timelines, who were misplaced by the Time Rebels. My only question is, who are these Time Rebels? Well, they are never mentioned ever again. So going through this book, for some reason I can't select any of them. Well, maybe I click the blinking number. Okay. After that, I still have to type in the number. Why go through all of this? Just flip through the pages and then take me to the next level. And if this wasn't bad enough, just wait until you try to navigate this time machine to the next level. You think they overthought this a bit? If you can't make out what's supposed to happen, let me put it out simply for y'all. Each of these numbers is a place that you can stop, with a floating circle that you can go in or out of. You might be asking, why not just go through the time machine with all the pipes? Well, every time you do that, it costs coins. And if you run out of coins, then you have to go around the stage looking for coins, or if you lose them coming out, or otherwise going in, the game is over. But then, there are skulls. If you hit one of these, you lose coins. Finally, after so much busy work, we finally get to the level. And my mother of God on a stick, this is literally the most unintuitive level design I have ever seen. You can't walk anywhere other than the gray, and the grass stops you trying to jump into it. Well, sometimes they'll be able to let you, but it doesn't even follow its own rules. If you try to jump into anything or on the grass like I mentioned, which sometimes you can't, you fall flat on your ass and you can't move, so you have to hop in and out of it. But it keeps getting worse from here. I could not find who I was supposed to, and when you go to find them, you're supposed to bring back a special item. For Thomas Edison, in my case, you're supposed to give him a compact disc. What? And for Caesar, you give him salad dressing, har har har. Cleopatra, a credit card. Elvis, his gravestone, and an Uzi for Jesse James. Yes, let's remind ourselves that we're not supposed to be changing history here, and we're doing this exact thing specifically to save a concert. This game is just insipid, man. There's no redeeming factors to this game. I didn't even cover everything, but you've seen enough.
But like I said, I have two NES games to look at. And this next one, I'm going to have to call its name 3 times in order for it to come to me. Beetlejuice! 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 Oh my face.
Yup. It's another LJN game. I should get this out of the way before anyone tries to correct me in the comments, but technically speaking, LJN didn't develop these games. They are just a publisher, and contracted other devs to make them. This game, for example, is made by Rare. Yes, The Donkey Kong rare, Killer Instinct rare, Donkey Kong's Bad Fur Day rare, 007 GoldenEye, and the Perfect Dark rare. How can they make a bad game? Well, let's try jumping on this bug.
What?
Why can't I jump on it? All it does is bounce me back further than One Punch Man sent someone flying through the air. Also, if you advance the screen up and try to jump down, you die. Touch anything other than the ground, you die. Even the torches that should just be part of the background can hurt you. Why is this game so convoluted with its gameplay? Dark Souls is much easier to 100% on, let alone trying to figure out these games' rules. You know what? No. I've seen enough.
For everything I show you in this video, child's play. Because this next game I'm going to show you is the game that caused the video game crash of 1983. The game so bad, they grabbed every single copy they could and buried them deep in the ground. And I'm talking, of course, of E.T. for the Atari 2600.
I'm sure y'all saw this coming, and I inevitably had to look at it at some point. So, here we go. Like many other Atari games, this only has one button and a stick, which you'd think would make the controls easy. But no, that only means you have to learn shit from the manual in order to play. So basically, you start by landing your ship and your goal is to find phone pieces and return home. You know what? It would have been easier if he just not landed in the first place. Just start taking off again. It's not like he has to find fuel. What made this game frustrating for everyone was constantly falling into pits and not figuring out how to get out. But the worst part is, you can't avoid them. The parts you need are in these pits. If you do get a grasp in the controls, that doesn't stop the CIA from catching you. If they catch you, they take one of your phone pieces. Plus, you have a limited amount of power. If you run out of it, you lose. Although, if a kid touches you, you gain some of it back. Not much else other to say than that, just avoid this game. Stay away from it.
In conclusion, movie tie-in games are not always a good idea. You can't just take any movie and make a video game out of it. Charlie and Chocolate Factory, Polar Express, Charlotte's Web, all good examples of what movies that should not turn into a game. It's just not a good idea. But if you have a good idea for a video game that resolves around a movie, and as long as the movie makes sense to make a video game out of, and you're able to make it a good game after that, it's a good idea. Because most of the time, these movies were just made to make a quick buck. You can't do that. Because if you make a good game, you'll make a quick buck, plus then some. Anyways, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe, and as always, I'll holler at y'all later. Thank you for watching.